any encouragement or otherwise to the idea. I think it's just an interesting thought, and thanks for raising it.
That said, there is one other element. It's probably only minor, but it might be worth raising, and that is several months ago, a protest that took place outside one of the government offices, which had a sort of an anti-American flavour to it, did broach the possibility of producing precisely that kind of arrangement. Now, if some kind of momentum falls in behind this kind of suggestion, who knows? Maybe something could come out of it in the legislature with some of the opposition legislators. Who knows? A very, very far-fetched possibility, but it's out there already in the public mind.
Okay. Do we have any last question before we finish off this panel session? If not, we have actually a chance at closing almost on time this evening. So thank you very much to the panel. Thank you very much. And before we move on to the next panel, which shall be our last, just some housekeeping again. There will be a drink session complimentary of the organizers in room 2101, Milan, room 2101, following the last session today. Our next session is entitled China Confidential, and it will address the latest in Chinese consumer trends, which all marketers serving in this part of the world are trying to understand. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Sorry to ask that question, but I had to. Thank you, Andy. All right, so I would like to welcome one of our, probably the only marketing guru I would acknowledge here in Macau, Kelvin Tan. I've known Kelvin Tan for several years now. We both first met in the Philippines, Philippine gaming scene, where at one stage it was the hottest junket market in the region before Macau opened. And when Macau opened, basically it became this black hole that just sucked up all the junket activity, all the VIP activity in the region. Kelvin has a very illustrious career. He's worked for a Malaysian company. He then worked for, he started up Fontana in Clark in the Philippines. And then he came over to join the Sands and was a founding member of Sands Macau. MPEL made a very decisive move when they recruited Kelvin across to run the City of Dreams. And without a doubt, anybody who follows the market share of Malco Crown would know that despite really only having 1.5 property, the one being COD and the half being Altera, their market share performance, particularly the gains in the last few years, have been nothing short of phenomenal. So I would like to invite Kelvin to come and take a stage. Please welcome Kelvin Tan. Kelvin, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you for the very generous introduction, and good afternoon to all of you. Oh, hi. I see some old friends here. This is the last session of the day, so I will try to make it interesting and relevant to most of you. All right, the highlights of my presentation this afternoon would be to talk about China, okay? And here are the few key facts about the state of China economy. China economic growth is slowing down, but it's slowing down to a sustainable range of 7 to 7.5%. In fact, last quarter, the growth rate was 7.4%, just a little short of the official projection of 7.5%. And Macau gaming growth is stronger than China GDP growth, as casino resorts cater to a very broad and increasing group from far and away, okay? And we estimated the market penetration rate of just 1.5%, and this 1.5% market penetration refers to a broad market meaning not only addressable but the entire China market. And if I may quote Goldman Sachs figure, Goldman Sachs just released the number that the total addressable market penetration rate of Macau is actually at 2.8% of potential gaming China market. Now, this is significantly below that of Las Vegas, which is at 16.9%. So Las Vegas is at 16.9% of the total American market, and therefore, this suggests that it would take another 30 years for Macau market to plateau, according to the current rate. Okay, casino resorts developed in Japan and Korea would be able to bring a broad array of people from China and elsewhere and grow their economies too. Okay, this graph that I borrow from DICJ, I believe. Do we have anybody from DICJ here? No, okay. I borrowed this from DICJ and some statistics of PRC that I put together. As you could see, on the right is China GDP growth rate, and on the left axis is Macau GGR growth rate. The red represents the Macau GGR growth rate, and the blue line represents the GDP growth rate of China for the past 8 years. And there's a very high degree of correlation between the two. Okay, very visible from the chart. The correlation between China GDP growth and Macau GGR growth is as high as actually 0.55 coefficient, what we call correlation coefficient. And the Q4 China GDP growth was 7.4%. It's actually the lowest point since early 2009. And also just below the 7.5% annual projection for this year. What is the China economic outlook? Now, to analyze this meaningfully, we look at the money supply trend of M2, basically, in China and the shadow banking. And the shadow banking here is this measure by, total social financing, the blue line, versus RMB loans. As you could see, despite Premier Lee's intention to control money supply, total money supply was creeping up in